Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It happened on a Tuesday night, right after dinner, in the living room. Our little patch of normal turned war zone. Lauren was standing in front of the TV, arms crossed. Wearing that look she usually saved for arguments she already thought she'd won. "I want to see other people," she said flatly. I was halfway through folding the laundry on the couch. At first, I just laughed. Thought it was one of her bizarre social experiments again. But she didn't laugh with me. "You're serious?" I asked. "I've thought about this for a while," she said, voice slow, almost rehearsed. "I need to feel alive again. Experience real passion. But I still want to come home to you." I dropped the towel. "So let me get this straight. You want an open relationship, where you're the only one opening doors." She gave this smug little shrug, like she was being generous. "You've always been stable. Safe. That's what I need. But love? I want to feel wanted again. Craved. I deserve that." I stared at her for a long moment. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice even. "Well, that's convenient." She raised a brow, folding her arms tighter. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, standing slowly. "You might want to know, I already have a girlfriend." That's when it hit her. Her smile didn't just fade. It shattered. She blinked like I'd slapped her. "What? You said you wanted freedom," I said. "I've just been a little ahead of you, I guess." "You're lying." I didn't flinch. "Her name's Megan. She works out at the gym. We've been talking for months. You know those late nights I've been staying at the office? Not always about work." Lauren stepped back like the air had been knocked out of her. "And then, no," she screamed, voice cracking through the room. "This is only for me." The heat snapped like a wire. "You think you can serve me infidelity with a smile and not expect the same rules to apply? You wanted a hall pass, Lauren, not a leash." "I gave up everything for you," she shouted, pointing wildly. "You think I want to be with some gym rat floozy? I'm trying to grow as a woman." "And I'm done shrinking as a man," I shot back. The room shook with every word, voices bouncing off the kitchen tiles like gunfire. Her eyes were glassy now, filled with disbelief, fury, panic. "I can't believe you would betray me like this." "No," I said, jaw clenched. "You betrayed us the moment you said you wanted more while keeping me on standby." She stormed past the couch, knocking over a lamp. "I own this house." I didn't move. "Then maybe you can be the one to explain to your mother why her daughter just broke her own marriage for passion." She paused at the door, seething. "You'll regret this," she spat. "I already did," I said quietly. "The moment you opened your mouth tonight." The door slammed behind her like a final verdict. After that, the silence sat deep in the room. I turned the lamp back upright, gathered the clothes, and resumed folding. My hands were steady, my chest still burning. But for the first time in months, I wasn't the one confused. I'm Jake, 37, logistics manager for a shipping company. Suburban backyard, 2 dogs, paid-off Toyota, and a wife who thought she could rewrite the rules and still own the scoreboard. She wanted open? Well, now the doors are wide. And not just hers anymore. The next evening, right before sunset, Lauren floated down the hallway like she was on a red carpet. Silk dress, hair pinned high, heels clicking softly on the hardwood. Her perfume drifted in like smoke, sweet and smug. She didn't look at me right away, just let herself be admired. I sat on the armrest of the couch, sipping black coffee from a chipped white mug, watching in silence. There was no emotion in my eyes. No smile. Not even curiosity. Just quiet calculation. Lauren finally turned toward me with a polished smile. "Well?" she asked, smoothing the side of her dress. "Too much for a first date?" I took a slow sip, set the mug down, and stood. "Looks expensive." She tilted her head. "I thought you'd be a little more mature about this. At least polite." "I've had polite kicked out of me," I said. She waved it off with a laugh. "Relax, Jake. You made your point last night. This is just me reclaiming a little fun." "Good," I said, walking past her toward the door. "Enjoy it." "I intend to," she called after me. "Don't wait up." I didn't answer. She left with a final swirl of confidence, hips swaying like she thought she was walking into a movie. The door closed gently behind her. I waited 5 full seconds. Then I locked the deadbolt from the inside and got to work. First, I changed the front door lock. I'd bought the new set earlier that morning. Simple installation. Precision work. The kind of quiet task that tells a man he still controls his home, no matter how much noise someone else makes. Click, screw, twist. Then came the porch. I unscrewed the bulb from the front light and tossed it into the trash under the sink. Darkness fell across the stoop. Inside, I turned off the hall lights and stood by the window, watching the street from behind the curtain. Not because I was nervous, because I was ready. See, when someone announces they're breaking the rules, they expect chaos, drama, begging, guilt. But what they never expect is silence. Calculated quiet. That's what rattles them most. Back in the living room, I sat on the couch and let the stillness settle in. Our house, my house now, felt like a sealed vault. Every inch of it, familiar and calm. And yet, humming underneath that calm was a tension I'd never known before. Not fear, not grief, strategy. I picked up my laptop and opened the joint banking app. Watched the numbers flicker across the screen like a patient heartbeat. Everything intact for now. I opened a second tab and typed quietly. New account, new passwords, new rules. Because if she wanted to see how freedom felt, I was going to give her a front row seat. Not by arguing, by removing the welcome mat. By 9:30, I'd swept the front step, vacuumed the hallway, lit a single candle in the kitchen. Not because I needed the ritual, because this house wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a chessboard, and I just made my move. It was exactly 12:08 a.m. when I heard the first bang. Not a knock, a bang. Knuckles, maybe a shoe. Something solid and frantic. Then came the voice. Jake, open the door. Why is the light off? I stayed seated, legs crossed, the glow of my laptop the only light in the room. I sipped from a glass of water and listened. Bang, bang, bang. Louder now. Jake, are you seriously doing this right now? Are you kidding me? I stood up slowly, walked over to the front window, and gently pulled the curtain aside. There she was, Lauren, drenched in moonlight and ego, arms crossed tight against the night chill, makeup slightly smudged, whether from tears or time, I couldn't tell. Her heels clicked back and forth across the porch like a storm pacing its own fury. I tapped the window gently. She spun, startled. Then her face twisted in disbelief. Are you serious right now? Open the door. I unlocked the window latch and cracked it open just enough for my voice to pass through. You wanted freedom, I said calmly. This is what it looks like. Her mouth dropped open. She actually staggered back a step like my words had pushed her. Freedom doesn't mean locking me out of my house, Jake. No, I said, folding my arms against the cold air seeping in. It means you walk out knowing it might not be there when you return. She pointed violently toward the door. This is my home too. I said. You redefined the terms yesterday. Lauren's hands curled into fists. I went on one date. One. And you're acting like I burned the house down. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't burn it down. You handed me the matches and dared me to light it. She stepped up close to the window, her voice shaking now. This is insane. I was just trying to be honest. I came back because I thought you'd want to talk. I didn't think I'd what? I asked, leaning in slightly. Take you at your word? She bit her lip hard, mascara trailing down her cheek like a cracked mask. You changed the locks? I didn't answer. I just looked down at the key in her hand, our old one, and then back at her. I can't believe you, she whispered. Oh, I believe you, I replied. I believe every word you said. About needing more, wanting new love, exploring passion. That was all crystal clear. She wrapped her arms around herself, voice smaller now. I was testing you. My jaw clenched. I kept my tone even. That's your mistake. She blinked. What? You don't test the foundation and act surprised when the roof caves in. There was a long silence. Then came the real voice. The one under the pride. The one that cracked. Jake, let me in. Please. I looked at her face, shaken, pale, maybe finally realizing the ground wasn't as steady as she thought. But my voice didn't shake when I replied. Go stay with your new interest. Isn't that the point? She shook her head, lips trembling. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? I asked, quieter now. Her voice broke. It was me, wondering if you still wanted me. I wanted to feel like I still mattered. I closed the window slowly. Not slammed, just shut. And as the seal pressed tight, so did the finality. I stood there behind the glass and watched as Lauren's shoulders sank, her arms hugging herself tighter. Her breath came out in clouds. She looked around, lost, cold, disarmed. The porch light, still dead, left her in shadow. Eventually, she sat on the step, pulled her phone from her purse, tapped. Waited. No car came. She tried again. Still nothing. And through that silence, I turned off the hallway light, letting the house return to shadow, just as she wanted. Freedom. It's not always the thrill of newness. Sometimes, it's just the sound of your own voice bouncing back at you when no one opens the door. The next morning, the world looked clean and unbothered. Blue sky, warm lights slanting through the blinds, like the night hadn't happened. Like no one screamed on a porch or cried in the dark. I got dressed in silence. Dark blazer, light shirt, shoes polished. The kind of sharp that says, I'm not rattled. On my way to work, I made a stop. The bank lobby was quiet. White marble floors. Fake plants. Soft jazz humming from the ceiling. I sat across from a young banker named Miles. Polite, efficient, maybe 26. Didn't ask questions when I handed him my ID and smiled like I was placing a casual order. Just need to freeze the joint account, I said. Everything moved to my private one. She no longer resides at the address. Miles tapped a few keys. Do you have access to online banking? You could have done this from home. I smiled faintly. Oh, I know. But it felt better to do it here. Click. Done. Just like that, the faucet turned off. I walked out of the bank with my hands in my pockets and the sun on my face. No drama. No threats. Just control, returned to its rightful place. By 10, I was at the office. Same coffee. Same routine. Same Jake. That lasted until 11:47 a.m. Where is he? Lauren's voice crashed through the hallway like a dropped glass. Phones went quiet. Keyboard stilled. Every pair of eyes turned toward the front. She marched in wearing oversized sunglasses and fire in her step, holding her phone out like it was a weapon. Jake. I was already standing by the break room, mug in hand. Calm as ever. I stepped out just as she passed the reception desk. She saw me and stopped. Ripped the sunglasses off. What the hell is this? She yelled, waving her phone. I can't access our money. A few coworkers peeked from offices. One of the interns actually leaned back in his chair for a better view. I took a slow sip of coffee. You mean my money? Her mouth fell open. It's a joint account. I said simply. You chose separation. I followed through. You can't just cut me off, Jake. I kept my tone low. Lauren, this is my workplace. She stepped closer, her voice louder now. You think you're going to humiliate me like this? Freeze the account like I'm some stranger off the street. I smiled lightly. You're right. A stranger has more legal rights at this point. There was a ripple of shocked silence behind the glass walls. Someone coughed awkwardly. Lauren's eyes glistened. Her voice dropped, but it cracked. I didn't think you'd go this far. You're punishing me. No, I said softly. I'm protecting myself. She looked around and realized just how many people were watching. How many faces were trying not to look like they were listening. Her chest rose and fell in quick bursts. Wow, she whispered. You really want people to see me as crazy? No, I replied. I wanted them to see me as done. Her bottom lip trembled for a split second. She turned and stormed out, heels hammering the tile. I watched the door close behind her. A moment later, my coworker Jeff passed by with raised eyebrows. Everything all right? I smiled faintly. Just a budgeting disagreement. Back at my desk, I pulled out my notebook, flipped past pages of shipment schedules and deadlines, and jotted down a single line in the margin. She's loud. But I'm unshakable. It started slow, like a leak behind the drywall. A few cryptic posts. A comment here and there. Then the dam broke. On Thursday morning, I opened my phone and saw the first tag. When your husband pretends to be calm, but is really a manipulative control freak. Hashtag narcissist energy, no names. Just enough smoke to let people imagine fire. I didn't reply, just took a screenshot. By lunchtime, her social media was a full-blown performance. A carousel of half-truths and martyrdom, each post more dramatic than the last. He locked me out of my own house. No warning, no conversation. Just slammed the door and acted like I never existed. People talk about emotional abuse like it always looks violent. Sometimes it's just silence used as a weapon. Each post got likes. Supportive comments from friends of hers, people I barely knew, now acting like they'd seen behind the curtain of our marriage. Some even messaged me directly. Hey man, I don't know what's going on, but I hope you're okay. She seems hurt. Thought you two were solid. I didn't answer anyone. Instead, I opened a new folder on my desktop. Evidence. Every post. Every comment. Every edit. Screenshot. Timestamp. Archived. Not out of spite. Out of preparation. By Friday, she was getting bolder. She posted a selfie, tears perfectly streaked, lips bitten, captioned, "It's hard to speak up when you're painted as the problem. But silence protects abusers, and I won't be silent anymore." That one hit different. Because it wasn't just about me now. It was an accusation. Still, I didn't react, didn't defend, didn't comment. Instead, I emailed the screenshots to my lawyer, Mark. Subject: character defamation, immediate review needed. Within an hour, I had a response. Collect everything. We'll move soon. This is her digging her own grave. Don't respond to a single post. I printed out every post and laid them out on my office desk like puzzle pieces. Across from them, our wedding photo. It felt like two versions of reality staring each other down. My office wasn't just for work now. It had become my war room. Quiet, organized, cold. I kept my calendar clear, took meetings with focus. But every spare second, I was documenting, sorting, preparing. Lauren wanted an audience. I was building a case. By Sunday night, she posted a story with a quote from some therapist influencer. "The cruelest partners are often the calmest ones. They break you gently so no one notices." No one notices? I noticed. And so would the court. The party was held at a cozy rented hall near the edge of town. Low lights, light jazz, platters of overpriced cheese, and that strange hush people keep when old friends reunite in newer, messier circumstances. It was Luke's birthday. He and I had been college roommates. Mutual friends came from all corners: accountants, teachers, realtors, and in Lauren's case, sympathizers. I hadn't expected her to show up. But when she did, she made sure everyone knew. She wore a pale green dress, the kind that made her look effortlessly innocent. She smiled brightly, hugged people too long, laughed too loudly. A performance with wine in one hand and self-pity in the other. I was by the bar when it started, talking with Clara, a former colleague of mine, and sipping on bourbon slow and steady. Then I saw the three of them approach. Melissa, Dana, Rebecca, Lauren's circle. Friends who always looked at me like I was the lucky one. They weren't cruel, just deeply loyal to her. "Jake," Melissa said, offering a strained smile. "We were hoping to have a word." I gave a small nod, didn't move. Dana jumped right in. "We've seen what Lauren's been going through. It's hard, obviously. And maybe it's not our place, but..." I took a sip and stared at the ice as it cracked. "But she's struggling," Rebecca said softly. "With rent, food, basic things. You're still married, technically. You should help." That made me laugh. Just one short, cold laugh through my nose. Melissa's eyes narrowed. "What's funny?" I looked up at her, eyes level. "She's not my wife anymore." Dana stiffened. "You're still legally." She ended it emotionally the night she told me she wanted to explore love somewhere else. I said, calmly. "That was the divorce. Paperwork's just catching up." Rebecca glanced toward the table where Lauren was laughing, surrounded by people who hadn't heard the full story. "She made a mistake," Melissa offered, quieter now. "You're punishing her." "No," I said, turning fully toward them, bourbon glass in hand. "I'm simply not volunteering to fund her rebellion. If you're so worried, maybe you can support her." That landed. Rebecca looked away. Dana swallowed hard. Melissa crossed her arms. "You're being heartless." "And she was being reckless," I said. "Actions. Consequences." "She's hurting." I nodded slowly. "That's what freedom looks like." Just then, Lauren spotted us. She made her way over, half curious, half sure of her timing. "Everything all right?" she asked sweetly. "We were just talking about generosity," I replied, smiling faintly. "Seems I've become stingy." Her face tightened slightly, just a flicker. "I didn't ask them to speak to you." "No," I said. "But you were probably hoping they would." Her jaw set. "I don't need charity." "Then you'll be just fine," I said, tipping my glass. Dana muttered something and walked off. The others followed. Lauren lingered. "You really don't feel anything about all this?" I met her eyes. "Oh, I feel plenty. But feelings don't pay rent." She stared at me, lips parted like she might argue. But nothing came. Eventually, she turned away, walking back toward the warmth of her curated circle, smiling again, louder than before. And me? I stayed at the bar, cool glass in hand, conscience even cooler. I hadn't spoken to Erica in over a year. She was always more Lauren's friend than mine, quiet at gatherings, sharp when she did speak, never the type to linger. So when she approached me that night, Just after Lauren had disappeared into her echo chamber of sympathizers, I expected another polite jab in a silk glove. Instead, she leaned one arm on the bar, raised an eyebrow, and said, "You handled that better than I would've." I turned slightly toward her. "Didn't know you were keeping score." "I wasn't," she said, sipping something that looked like ginger beer, but I overheard the conversation. "You've got restraint, Jake." "I admire that." I gave a quiet nod. "Most people here don't." "Most people here," she said, glancing toward the party, "still think Lauren's drama is some kind of performance art. And they're all too scared to admit she's not as innocent as she acts." That made me pause. "You're not exactly whispering," I said. She smiled slightly. "Good. Let them hear." Erica stepped back from the bar, voice rising just enough to float across the room. "You know what's funny?" she said aloud, facing the group. "Lauren walked away from a marriage she didn't respect, then acted surprised when Jake stopped protecting her from herself." Eyes turned. Forks paused midair. Even the jazz from the speaker seemed to lower its volume. Dana stared at her. "Excuse me." I said what I said. Erica's voice was calm, deliberate. "You all rallied around her like she was thrown into the street." She walked. Jake didn't drag her. He didn't expose her. He just stopped catching her falls. Lauren, halfway across the room, narrowed her eyes. "What are you doing?" "I'm being honest," Erica replied, not missing a beat. "You wanted to play grown-up games, Lauren. But you didn't want grown-up consequences." Lauren took a step forward. "You have no idea what went on in my marriage." Erica folded her arms. "Then why did you post about it on the internet for everyone to see?" Silence. Erica turned back toward me, then nodded toward the door. "Come get some air?" I didn't answer. I just followed. Outside, the night air was brisk and clean. The music was muffled through the glass. My shoulders loosened a little without me meaning to. We stood near the railing, beneath a hanging bulb that flickered like it couldn't decide if it wanted to stay on. "I didn't expect that," I said finally. She looked over. "What? Me having a spine?" "No," I chuckled. "You using it in my defense." Erica shrugged. "I've been biting my tongue for months." Lauren acts like she owns pain, that it gives her moral clearance to do anything. "But you," she paused, "you're the only one who took the hit and stayed silent." That silence was misunderstood. "Oh, I know," she said, "but not by everyone." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she added, "You know, I used to tell Lauren she didn't deserve how patient you were." And she'd laugh. Not because she disagreed, because she knew it was true. I turned toward her. "And what do you think now?" She met my eyes. "Now I think." Maybe she was right. She didn't. That sat heavy between us. Not bitter, just real. But then Erica smirked and nudged my arm gently. "Also, I've never seen a guy dismantle a guilt trip so politely. That was kind of impressive." I laughed quietly. "It's a talent I hope I never need again." "Too late," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're officially the lead in the drama." "And what does that make you?" She shrugged. "The rogue side character no one saw coming." We stood there another few minutes, side by side, not talking much. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was in a fight. I felt like I could breathe. The next weekend, Erica texted me out of nowhere. "There's a coffee shop near the lake that makes this ridiculous cinnamon latte. I feel like you could use one." I stared at the message longer than I should have. Then I replied with 2 words. "Pick the time." We met Sunday afternoon. The place was quiet, tucked behind a florist and a dog boutique. She was already seated when I arrived, sipping from a chipped blue mug and tapping a sugar packet against the table like she'd done it 100 times. "Didn't think you'd actually come," she said with a half smile. "I didn't think you actually liked me." She laughed. "I didn't say I did. I said you needed a latte." I sat down across from her. We didn't talk about Lauren right away. Instead, we wandered. Books, favorite takeout places, old music we used to swear by. It felt like stepping into a room I hadn't visited in years. Not romantic. Not yet. But real. Eventually, the conversation curved around like it always does. "She always made everything about her," Erica said, stirring her drink. "Even when you did something kind, she'd spin it into what it meant for her reputation." I leaned back in my chair. "I used to think I was imagining that." "You weren't," she said. "You were just too loyal to say it." There was a brief pause. "Truth is," she went on, eyes meeting mine, "I never bought the whole story. The one she's spinning now. You, the cold, heartless husband. Doesn't line up. I chuckled quietly. I am cold, though. Now, at least. No, Erica said, smiling. You're just done being controlled. That's different. There was something in the way she said it. Simple, but not casual. Like she understood something people kept missing. After that, we started talking more. Small things. Shared links. The occasional dry meme. One night, she called me out of the blue. No warning. Be honest, she said. What was the worst moment? I didn't hesitate. The night she said she wanted an open relationship, but only for herself. Erica whistled softly. That sounds like her. Full access with full immunity. And when I said I already had someone, I added. She lost it. Screamed. Told me it was only supposed to be her. Erica sighed. I'm sorry, Jake. I should have said something sooner. You said something exactly when it counted, I said. The line was quiet for a second. Then, she said slowly, I used to catch myself wondering what it would have been like if you hadn't met Lauren first. That stopped me cold. I didn't think you noticed me back then, I said. I notice a lot more than I say, she replied. I just didn't want to be another shadow in her spotlight. I looked out my kitchen window, staring at the dark glass. And now I don't care who sees me. That silence between us wasn't awkward. It was full, heavy in a good way. Not everything had healed. Not everything needed to. But something new was quietly beginning. It didn't roar. It didn't demand. It just asked one small question. What if not all endings mean you're alone? Courtrooms have a smell, like old paper, floor wax, and tension that's been recycled too many times. I sat near the front, next to Mark, my lawyer and the calmest man in any room. His suit was sharp, his briefcase neater than any courtroom file deserved. He gave me a nod like we were about to checkmate someone in a chess game that had been waiting months to end. Then the doors opened, and Lauren entered like she was stepping onto a stage. Tight black dress, heels that echoed louder than necessary. Makeup flawless, a little too glamorous for the occasion. She was laughing with her attorney, like she thought this was all just a speed bump on her way back to center stage. She saw me, of course. Her smile thinned, but didn't fade. That was her skill, posing confidence over crumbling ground. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered something that made her giggle. A few of her friends were in the back row. I didn't look at them. Erica walked in right after. She wore gray, subtle, poised, not a single ounce of drama in her step. Lauren turned to her with raised brows. Really? You're actually here? Erica didn't respond, just sat 2 rows behind me and gave a small nod when I turned around. The bailiff called the session into order. Judge Ramos entered. No nonsense, late 50s, eyes that scanned the room like headlights on a dark road. The courtroom quieted instantly. Lauren's lawyer opened with a monologue about emotional distress, the unfair treatment she'd endured, and the vindictive silence I'd used to manipulate her post-separation. It was dramatic, colorful, a full script of self-victimization. I didn't react. Mark stood next. Your Honor, he said, placing a folder on the bench. We'd like to submit these social media screenshots into evidence. Each one posted by Mrs. Hamilton following her departure from the marital home. The judge began flipping through them. Mark continued, steady. Here is the post where she calls Mr. Hamilton emotionally abusive. And here, where she implies he physically locked her out without cause. And another, where she accuses him of controlling finances while she was desperate and isolated. All publicly posted. All false. Lauren shifted in her seat. The judge didn't say a word, just kept reading. Then Mark gestured. We also have a witness. Erica Langford. Lauren's head snapped toward the back. You've got to be kidding me. But Erica was already standing. She walked to the front with calm confidence, was sworn in, and sat straight. Ms. Langford, Mark said, can you tell the court what Mrs. Hamilton shared with you regarding her intentions during the separation? Erica looked straight ahead. She told me she wanted to hurt Jake. She said she hoped people would turn against him. That if she looked like the victim, she could control the narrative and maybe get financial support out of guilt. Lauren's lawyer jumped up. Objection. Hearsay. Direct quote. Your Honor, Mark replied. And we have text messages to support the statement. Submitted as Exhibit 14. The judge held up a hand. Overruled. Continue. Erica didn't waver. She also sent me photos of herself crying before posting them. Told me to pick which one looked the most broken. Her words, not mine. Gasps rippled behind us. Lauren stood. You're a traitor, Erica. The judge banged the gavel once. "Sit down, Mrs. Hamilton. Now." Lauren sat, but the veneer cracked. Her lips were tight. Her nails tapped rapidly against the table. Her lawyer whispered furiously, but the panic in her eyes had already spread. The judge took a breath, then looked at her directly. "Mrs. Hamilton, based on the evidence submitted and the testimony provided, I find your statement slanderous in intent and harmful in effect. You publicly defamed Mr. Hamilton, with malice and without proof." She paused. "You will issue a formal retraction on all platforms where such posts were made. Additionally, you are ordered to pay Mr. Hamilton $18,000 in damages for defamation." Lauren's mouth opened, but no words came out. Erica and I locked eyes for 1 second. That was all it took. Lauren had played the victim, but in this room, truth showed up with receipts. Still here? Give this video a like, it really helps. It was 3 days after the verdict when Luke called me. "Bro," he said, already half laughing. "You're not gonna believe this." I leaned back in my chair, stirring the ice in my glass. "Try me." Lauren's been messaging people, old college friends, neighbors, even my wife, asking for money. I blinked. "Seriously? Dead serious." Said she needs help clearing a legal misunderstanding. That's what she's calling it. I exhaled slowly. $18,000 must feel a lot heavier without a lawyer whispering in her ear. Luke snorted. "Word is, she's taken a job cleaning tables at that corner cafe by Maple and 4th. You know, the one with the chalkboard menus and the overpriced muffins?" "Yeah," I said. "Used to be her favorite brunch spot. Now she's wiping down the booths." I didn't gloat. Didn't smirk. I just let the silence stretch for a second. Then I said, "That's what freedom looks like." Luke whistled. "Man, you've got ice in your veins." I shook my head. "Not ice. Just clarity." He paused. "You ever feel bad? Even a little?" "Sure," I said. "Back when I thought we had something real. Back when I stayed up nights wondering what I did wrong. And now I know I didn't do anything wrong. I just finally stopped paying for someone else's mess." The conversation drifted to sports and weekend plans, but that part stuck with me long after the call ended. Because karma doesn't always show up in a flash of lightning or a headline. Sometimes it's a mop bucket and a polyester apron. Later that night, I ran into Jason and Claire, mutual friends, at a bookstore downtown. We caught up briefly, polite smiles and the usual surface-level chatter. Then Claire lowered her voice. "Lauren called me last week. Sounded different." Jason chimed in. "Desperate. She hinted that you're making her suffer on purpose," Claire said carefully. "Wanted us to talk to you." I stayed quiet for a moment, flipping through a hardcover just to keep my hands busy. Then I looked up. You know what I did? I listened. I gave her space. I stayed quiet while she dragged my name. I gave her the freedom she asked for. Jason nodded slowly. "And what did she do with it?" "Burned it down," I said. "Now she wants someone else to cover the ashes." Claire didn't respond right away. Then, with a small sigh, she said, "It's sad." "Maybe," I said, "but it's also fair." And that was the truth of it. Lauren made her choices. And freedom without accountability? It's just self-sabotage in a prettier dress. It was a Thursday afternoon when Erica and I stopped by the cafe. Not for drama. Not for show. Just for coffee. Celebration. Closure. The place was quiet, mid-shift lull. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, catching little flecks of dust in the air. A soft indie song played overhead, something with piano and space between the notes. We walked in hand, not rushed, not pretending, just us. I held the door as Erica stepped inside, her laugh still hanging in the air from a joke I barely remembered telling. She wore a light blue jacket, and that calm smile she only gave when she wasn't trying to impress anyone. We were halfway to the counter when I saw her. Lauren, bent over a mop bucket near the back booth, wiping at a floor stain like it had insulted her. Her hair was tied back. No makeup, no crowd, just her. She looked up at the sound of the bell above the door. Our eyes met. For a second, she didn't flinch, didn't scowl, didn't say a word, just stood still, mop in hand, eyes tracking me and Erica like she was watching a different version of the life she thought she'd always control. I didn't gloat, didn't stare. I simply nodded once, calm, respectful, and that was it. Erica noticed, but said nothing. We ordered 2 coffees, sat by the window, and talked about everything but her. Books, travel, whether cinnamon belongs in cold brew, The stuff that fills your lungs when you've finally exhaled all the weight someone else left behind. Lauren passed by once to wipe a table near ours. Her eyes stayed low. For a moment, I wondered if she wanted to say something. A sorry, a sigh, a plea. But she didn't. And that silence said more than anything ever could. Because this time, she wasn't in control of the room. She was just existing in it. As we stood to leave, Erica took my hand again. Her thumb brushed the back of mine. That was strange, she whispered once we stepped outside. Which part? I asked, watching someone realize they built their own loneliness. I nodded. Freedom isn't a weapon. Love isn't a game. And walking away from loyalty only looks strong until you're mopping floors and watching it slip by your table. We left the cafe with warm cups, clearer hearts, and no need to look back. Not out of pride, but peace. And that was the end of the story. You saw what Erica did. She stood up in a room full of people, went against her friend, and told the truth when it mattered most. I've thought about that moment more than once. Would you have had the courage to do what she did? Let me know in the comments. Did she do the right thing? And if you want more stories like this, make sure to like the video and hit subscribe.